Morning, everybody. Very nice to see everybody on this Tapestry morning. Tapestry is a green tea from Hubei Province. By the end of this session, you're going to understand why this tea is so different from other green teas in China. You're going to understand a little bit more about the terroir of this area. So before we launch into that, let's talk about shop news. For those of you who have renewed, thank you very much, the annual membership. For those of you who are still in process, please let me know what you're thinking. And let's see, this week was very busy because we've had a tremendous number of new people. And I think I owe you a debt of thanks, because I think many of you have recommended this shop, and so we're now getting the result of all these recommendations, and so we really appreciate it, and it's been a lot of fun. Okay, Tapestry. Tapestry is a green tea, so this follows up last week's Jewel, which was a white tea. This is a different part of China. Last week, we were in Fujian Province. This week, we are in Hubei Province. We're in Hubei, close to the border of Hunan Province. So Hubei is north, Hunan is south. And from Fujian Province, it's probably about 2,000 miles away. And that would be north and to the west. So one of the things, I sent you some pictures. I think I sent three or four pictures. And in one of those pictures, you can clearly see the rows of bushes, and then you see all the stuff on the ground. Looks like weeds. Remember, I've talked to you about how important it is for it not to look like there's no weeds or nothing between the tea bushes. And here's an example that shows that they're using local vegetation to control weeds in this area. They're not using Roundup. This particular farmer, most of the tea does not reach market. He produces quite a bit of tea, but it mostly stays local. And actually, we're very lucky to know him and to be able to have interaction with him, because within the tea industry, he is looked on as kind of an innovator. He's a really good scientist. He's a really good speaker. So green tea and Hubei Province. Has Hubei Province been famous for green tea for a long time? Yeah, they've grown a lot of green tea there for the last 1,000 years, but not all that much has been tribute grade. That is the grade that goes to the emperor. This particular style of tea started sometime in the Qing dynasty. So Qing dynasty, as we remind ourselves historically when that was, about 1635 to about 1911, give or take a year or two. And during the early part of the Qing dynasty, one of the names of the emperors was Kangxi. And Kangxi established a very long reign that was very stable. So lots of things were able to develop during his reign. And this is one of the teas that did develop during his reign. So this tea is marked by varietal and it's marked by process. So let's talk about the varietal for a minute. This particular varietal, and it's not just the varietal, it's also because of the actual terroir, is very rich in selenium. Also, pretty darn rich in antioxidants. So an ounce of liquid. So remember, our glasses, these large glasses are 16 ounces. 1/16 of this glass in terms of antioxidants, total antioxidants, is equivalent to an 8-ounce cup of wine, red wine, cup of red wine, ridiculous, glass of red wine. 7 cups of orange juice, 12 mugs of beer, 5 cloves of garlic. So the point here is it's highly antioxidant rich. That's one point. The second point is, as teas go, it's very highly rich in selenium. And selenium is one of those trace elements that we all need. So this is, we're starting at one end here, because usually I don't bring in the alleged health benefits until near the end. But I thought, because this is a standout feature of this particular tea, that we'd bring this up right away. And by the way, I didn't actually describe any health benefits of having a lot of antioxidants or selenium. You can kind of figure those out yourself. But trust me, there's plenty of information that both of those are quite useful to humans. So that's both where it's grown and the particular varietal. It's grown in the southern part of Hubei Province, and also is grown in the northern part of Hunan Province. And let's talk about, let's get you situated, because you remember a few weeks ago, I sent a map of where Encore, which was a yellow tea, was grown. And that's in the, right on an island in a lake that straddles both Hunan and Hubei. So it's grown in that region. And so on both sides of the borders, that is the Hunan side and Hubei, you can find this particular tea. This tea that you're going to have today is from the Hubei side. And as I mentioned before, this farmer is very famous. So I said, I made this claim in the beginning that this tea is different from other green teas. Well, let's get ourselves refreshed about what makes a tea a green tea in the first place. Green teas are unoxidized. That means that the enzyme in the tea leaf itself that causes oxidation has been denatured. And there's many ways to denature. Well, there's not that many ways. There's a couple ways to denature the enzyme, but the way that they do it in the tea industry is they apply high heat. And usually with green tea, that's high heat from 300 to 400 degrees. And we all remember from our history that pre-Sung dynasty, and again, let's give you some rough dates, you know, somewhere around the year 1000 up to about the year 1200, give or take 10 or 12 years, something like that. From that time forward in China, the original methodology of steaming tea went away, and it all became fried. So that today, and in fact, by the start of the Ming Dynasty, 1368, by the start of the Ming Dynasty, steaming was all but gone. It truly, completely went away. Let's see. Qing Dynasty, Kangxi, stability. That's right. The beginning of the Qing Dynasty were experimenting in China with various tea methodologies, processing methodologies. So one of the things that they did with the tea that you're having today is they started steaming them. There was a period of time when China was in confusion, and that kind of went away while China was in this ferment, and there wasn't really a good law and order. But starting in around 1946, this tea started to be produced again. And it's been produced in small batches up until relatively recently, when it's been produced in much, much larger batches. And it's steamed. It's the only green tea. This is the key thing. If you don't take away anything else from today's discussion, this is the only green tea in China that is steamed instead of fried. Now, in a minute, you're going to question what I just said. And you're going to question what I just said. So I'm going to shortcut so you don't have these questions. There is frying of this tea, but it happens post-steaming. So this is the only tea that in green tea in China that undergoes any steaming at all. So it's quite unique in that way. Now, I ask you this. Is there anything unique in their picking? No, not really. Spring pick, bud, they do it by grade, a bud and a leaf, a bud and two leaves. Okay, so that's still the same. And they bring it to steaming as fast as they can. Undergo steaming. At the conclusion of steaming, what do they let it do? They let it cool down. So you have to, when you're steaming tea, have some sort of cooling period there. You can't just go to the next method or the next process. And the reason you can't just go, you know, that steamed tea is hot. And because it's steamed rather than fried, it retains that heat for a longer time. Hard to put your hand in and try and do anything with that tea. So they let it cool and then they fry it. So this is why, this is the key element. Steam, cool, and fry. These three steps are the key element why in the very beginning, though you may notice that this tea, once we taste it, has certain characteristics, it does not taste like purely steamed Japanese tea. And that's because after the steaming, they actually fry. What do they do after they fry the tea? They roll it. Okay, and it's a fry and then a roll, and then they're not done. They're not anywhere near done. So let's back up a minute. Remembering in the green tea methodology, it's usually you pick, you wither so you can actually make the leaves pliable. And the withering isn't that long. You fry it. Sometimes you will roll while you're frying it. Sometimes you'll roll after you're frying. Sometimes you'll do a little shaping after that. Then you always bake it because you have to get the moisture level down to the appropriate amount of moisture in the tea leaf so that you can actually ship it and store it. You sort it and you sell it. That's basically the green tea process. And usually that's all done in a day, essentially. Now here, we've already talked about steaming and frying, rolling. Oh, and we fry again. Why are we frying again? Because we're further trying to reduce the moisture, but we're doing it in a stepped function. So fry, roll, fry. What do you do after frying? Oh, let's make this thing unique. Let's make it look pretty. Let's make it look like it's a Hubei shape. And so they have small tools where they actually roll. I'm sorry, and they don't call it rolling in that step. They call it shaping. So the roll was right after the first frying, you fry again, and then you shape. Not only do they have tools, they have a methodology for shaping that will blow your mind. You have, is there a question? Oh, I'm sorry.
What are the time intervals between all of these steps?
So this is a great question. What are the time intervals between these steps? So remembering, unlike Betty Crocker, who gives you down to the minute or the second, I'm not going to answer that down to the minute, but I will give you some sense because farmer by farmer, it's different, isn't it? And so in this particular farmer's case, when you do that first steaming process, that's usually from his way of doing it. That first steaming process is usually done within 15 minutes. The cooling process is usually an hour or two. The frying process is relatively quickly. So relatively quickly, what does that mean here? 8 minutes or so. You know, some farmers are going to do 12 minutes. And again, every farmer, that's the beauty of crafted tea at this level. That's the beauty, and that's why when you're trying these teas, you're not trying teas that have been standardized down to the second. These are all crafted according to a tradition of what the farmer says, yeah, this is how it should smell, this is how it should look. And every farmer is essentially in competition with every other farmer. They're doing it the way that they think is going to make the best product, especially at this level, because this is a pride thing. When their stuff comes on the market, everybody in the team, this guy who we're dealing with, what you're getting today, this guy is a senior member of the tea elite in China, the tea industry in China. Just that title all by itself means that, oh yeah, when I put tea on the market, it's going to be the best. It's going to be, this has my name, my imprimatur on it. So when they do that rolling, so it's fry, roll, fry, right? When they do the rolling, this is the least predictable in terms of time interval. And it's least predictable because they're looking for a certain result as they're rolling it. So sometimes a roll as short as 30 minutes takes care of business. In fact, sometimes even 25 minutes. Sometimes that roll is considerably longer. The next frying portion of the process is relatively short, 12 minutes or so. And so the fries are at somewhat different temperatures. And again, you're not going to be happy because I'm not going to give you an exact temperature because the farmer is building up the fire and they're not using, it's not like us at home. Okay, recipe says, yeah, this is supposed to be 425. Okay, oh, you get that right on the 425. Or if you have one of the digital readouts, you know, you hit it, oh yeah, 425. Oh, I like 426. No, they don't have those. What they're doing is they build this fire and they have the wok on it and they're frying it and they know from the feel and how the leaves respond. Yeah, this is working the way I want it to work. Roll, fry, roll. Oops, other way around. Fry, roll, fry, and then shake. Now, I left you right on the precipice of shape here. Let's talk a little bit more about that shaping because I said there's some tools. Well, one of the chief tools is your hands. And they've got this bamboo with a pile of the leaves on it. And the hands are positioned this way. So they're parallel. The fingers are parallel to the tray. The thumbs are up in a 90-degree angle, and the right hand is basically stationary. It's not completely stationary, but basically. And they grab and then this way. They grab and then this way. And this is one of the techniques that they're using to shape. So one of you is going to ask me, so I'm going to shortcut this question because I can already feel it coming. Why is it that they're using the left hand as the roller? Aren't most of these guys right-handed? Why aren't they using the right hand as the roller? So I'm glad you thought this question. I'm glad it didn't actually come out of your mouths yet, because now I have to tell you the understudy answer. And the understudy answer is, I don't know. This is historically and traditionally what they've done with this tea, but how it actually arose this way, I can't answer. So you get finished shaping it. You're all pleased, thinking, yeah, we're almost finished. But what's missing? There's still way too much water in that leaf. They've got to get that leaf down via baking down to 5 or 6%. So that is the second to the last step. Last step, once you go through all of this, and by the way, before I talk what this last step is, for various processing modalities, you can insert this step, and farmers do insert this step. And the step I'm talking about is sorting. So what the heck are they sorting? They're sorting out to make sure that there's no alien elements in the rocks or visible insects or branches from some other species of a plant. They don't want to see those. They just want to see the perfectly shaped, the appropriately moisture reduced tea leaves and get those out to market. So think about all these sessions that we've talked about green tea. We've never talked about it in this way because this is the only one where they're doing it like this. And by the way, by steaming it, is there an effect on the flavor? Well, you're going to see in a minute. So rather than have me answer that, let me see if the tea master Bijou can come over and demonstrate how to brew this. And then after Bijou demonstrates how to brew it, let's have you brew along with her, because I'm sure that just as I thought, that all of you are thirsty. Okay. So without further ado, it is my tremendous pleasure to bring forth the numinous Bijou, and she will demonstrate.
Hi, good morning, everybody. So we do green tea. This is if you like, you copy, but this for John. This is for me. But at the same time, this is my favorite. You know, the green tea. John, give me the glass.
Oh, good.
Thank you. One more. Yeah.
There you go.
I have 4 glasses, John.
You can use 2 at home if you want, but when we have 4 and when we're demonstrating for you, what we're trying to do is speed up the process of aeration of water and dissipation of steam. So by having 4 glasses that we can rotate through, it just makes it faster. But at home, if you only had the 2 glasses and this strainer, you'd be happy, and that's all you would need. And you notice, where's the covers? Oh, that's right. This is green tea. We don't cover green tea when you're brewing it because you don't want a flat flavor.
这个呢是 this side I made it to John. That's for me. So I use 4 glasses. Usually sometimes 3. So yeah, today, yeah, you see, okay? I do first.
The playing with the water stage. Whoops, not playing with the water, aerating the water.
Clean,
Oh, and yes, cleaning the cup. The cups are clean. Just making sure that there's no soap stains or anything left over. Anything that could influence the final outcome of the tea flavor, we don't want that. And in addition, obviously heating the glass, because when you try and wake up the leaves, one of the things you're going to want to do is make sure you put them in hot glasses. So you can use during this part of the process, anything, any temperature, not anything, any temperature between 170 and 212, does not matter. But once you start down the road to get the water ready for brewing, you draw 175 or 170 degree water. This is best done with a starting draw of 170. And if you're underneath that when you brew it, that's zero problem. If you're over that, so long as you're only a little over that, that's zero problem. If you're a lot over that, you're gonna flatten this remarkable flavor.
这个呢，主要调整它的那个口感，因为听它是调整口感，但是还是酸的。这个不就很快 display。
So in doing this, tea masters understand how to make adjustments depending on what environment they're facing. So we'll watch how the tea master does this and see what she's doing in order to bring out the best flavor. So in fact, we see exactly what she's doing. She's poured a half a glass instead of a full glass. Why? Because that will dissipate the heat faster. And so she's working here to get this done faster. At home, if you were using the full glass, that's fine. It's going to take a little bit longer, but these are all techniques that you can use, and we're explaining what the basis is behind them.
这个呢，我就要投茶了，就会它这个一半投茶，就像在那个恩施，我把茶叶放到这里。
你是放在那个水里？
茶叶放那个一半，放那个像那个因为这个像这个。
OK， 你要他们也这样子。
就是看，就是调整啊，那也可以啊。
Okay, so you can follow either of the processes. She's making an adjustment in how she's actually doing this. So she puts the 4 grams in the glass that was first aerated. The water was first aerated, and she's going to put that in there for nuance. And then she's going to add the other half on top of that. Now, if at home you only want to do it the traditional way that we've taught you, that's fine as well. But this is another methodology, and you'll get a fine flavor either way.
好看。Okay, 2 minutes.
Got it. And so the timing for this is 2 minutes. Okay, so we were talking about all the things that make this a little bit different and a little bit special in terms of how this tea is created. And so the key thing again is that it's steamed. And when it's steamed, what happens, very much like Japanese tea. So the equivalent in Japanese tea would be something like gyokuro. The actual amount of amino acids in the tea leaf is more than if it had been fried. The other thing that there's more of is there's a bit more chlorophyll in these leaves. So these are all things which end in a flavor difference. Remembering fry, roll, fry, those 2 levels of frying disguise the fact that it was actually steamed first, but it doesn't completely hide it, as you'll see when you actually taste it yourself. This tea, and typically when you have a tea like this, and what I mean like this, something that's steamed, typically it is stronger in mouth flavor. But again, doing the fry, roll, fry takes that edge off of it, as you'll see in a minute. All right, so we're almost ready. In fact, we are ready. So you notice the tea master is separating the tea leaves from the tea liquor, not in a hurry. Second one has gone off. And again, just carefully, but not in a hurry. All right, so the first thing we do is enter the quality arena. We talk about this with all the teas, and so the first step is to look and smell. And then we go ahead and enter the quality arena. This is done at 170-degree water. So the result is that you can actually take a sip of this. And remember, when you're entering the quality arena, what you're attempting to do is to first ascertain where the astringency is in the mouth. You're thinking then about the aftertaste, and then you start to think about whatever energetics there are going to be. So the energetics are simply the way you feel after you drink the tea. So let's go ahead, not you yet. I'll go ahead and start this process. Okay, I'm detecting astringency. That's good. That means that there's really polyphenols in here. That's the reason you detect astringency. I catch a hint of an aftertaste here. Don't have the energetics yet, but I will get them. And then I'm going to take a second sip. And the second sip will help you understand both aroma. It'll help you understand flavor profile. And when you do this, especially for those of you who love green tea, think about kind of the characteristics across the green teas that you understand and think where this fits in it, because this is a little bit different. Okay, I made some judgments about that. Last thing, take a look at this color and take a look at the tea liquor itself. It is cloudy, so there's all sorts of trichomes in there. It is very greenish. It's a beautiful color. And now it's your turn to brew.
It's too hot. So yeah, it's for me.
Why are the leaves spread out all over the tray?
Oh, just to get a sense of what they look like. You get a better sense than when they all sit together.
Mhm.
So your tableau will look just about exactly like this, where you have 2 cups and the strainer. You may or may not have a tea toy.
If you don't have tea to use it, you know, this is my style in the front. Yeah, that goes.
So tea master is using this as a decoration,
Yeah.
background decoration. aerating the water, dissipating the steam. And again, not in a hurry. And these details, we had new customers in here this week, and they were fascinated by this. And it's the collection of details that make the end result so good. It isn't one specific detail where you say, well, if you do this, then it will always be that way. No, it's a bunch of things. If you do all the details, including preheat the cup, shake the cup, wake the leaves, dissipate, aerate, all of those things go into the final product. If you choose not to do that, that's fine. That's not an issue. It's just that your end result will be a little bit different than the end result here. But it doesn't, this is the ideal way if you have time to do this, if you have space to do this. If you don't, just following the basics of what we're teaching will still end up with a very fine cup of tea. All right, you notice that when she poured the water in, she poured it on the side of the cup, tried not to pour directly on the leaves. When you do it that way, what happens again is you get a brighter flavor. And so you see, week by week, it's always a little different, isn't it? Because some weeks you have leaves at the top, leaves at the bottom, and about 50-50. Sometimes you have a little floating action between the two. But here, no, everything sank right away to the bottom. So, and if you ask me why, it has to do again with the processing methodology. This processing methodology causes the leaves to sink directly to the bottom. The other thing about this is you may not have capability in terms of space to have so many things going on at the same time, but everybody has capability to control temperature, to control grammage. And if you'll do those simple things, then the rest of this falls in place into a very satisfactory cup of tea. We love visiting this farm year by year. And there's a couple reasons we love visiting this farm, because again, this farmer within the tea industry is considered one of the overall experts. And the number of questions he's able to answer for us is just truly remarkable. Not only in terms of this tea, I mean, obviously you'd expect him to understand his own teas, but in terms of understanding teas in China overall, in terms of understanding what slight differences in the soil alkalinity or acidity make to the end result, this guy is truly a remarkable, very modest scientist as well. All right, your timers have gone off. And not in a hurry, but very deliberately, you're going to go ahead and separate the tea leaves from the tea liquid. And you're going to end up with something that looks like this in terms of color and in terms of all the trichomes floating around inside. And we're going to enter the quality arena together. So the first thing is you've already seen the leaves. You smell. Right away, you get very distinctive aromas. And I already have my impression of what those aromas are, and hopefully you're picking that up. Yes.
The dry leaves, I think the awoken leaves smell sweet and a bit malty.
Sweet and a bit malty for the woken up leaves. Good call.
And then after brewing, the slight minty, misty green appearance of broth is so new.
Slight minty, misty green of broth is new. And why is it new? It's not exactly new, but I know what you mean by that. It's new in comparison to so many of the other green teas. But think back a moment to Loquat Companion. Loquat Companion also has lots of mistiness in it, trichomes galore in it. So again, by varietal, you see differences. Some of the green teas, the last one we did, I believe, was Satisfaction. That didn't have this intensity. And in fact, this intensity is so much, if you look at the very bottom of your cups, it's beginning to condense the trichomes. It's almost like the gravity of the cup is pulling the trichomes together at the bottom. So while you're thinking about this, I'll talk, go ahead.
The tea liquor has a kind of vegetal scent, but also the scent of pasta water. It's been a while since I had gyokuro, but I always thought gyokuro smelled like freshly cut lawn, but this scent is not like that. I like this better.
Oh, great comment. So let's work backwards. So this particular commentator in the past has drunk gyokuro. Gyokuro is a very fine Japanese, one of the finest. And the commentator correctly points out that many times it tastes like cut lawn. This one does not. This is not like cut lawn. And I've explained to you technically why it's not. Fry, roll, fry. 2 fries. That fry takes out that cut lawn, that real grassiness. The more you fry, the less grassy. So what other tea on our list of green teas follows a similar procedure to cut down and in fact eliminate grassiness? Premier's Choice. Premier's Choice is over charcoal for over an hour. To go back and forth over your charcoal. And you never get any grassiness from that. And that's the reason, from a methodology and taste endpoint, that you do something like that. And that's exactly how they must have come upon this. Let's try steaming it as a throwback. But gosh, you know, I want still a little bit of resemblance to what fried green tea is like. So you have both things going on. Yeah.
There is a cooling in the mouth, which feels unique to other green teas that have been drunk.
Cooling in the mouth. Love that you picked this up. There is definitely a cooling in the mouth, and it is similar to some of the other green teas we've had. This one, for me, is more forward. The cooling is definitely more forward. The other green teas, yes, you get it, particularly as an aftertaste, but this is almost, you're getting it right away. And as a commentator, you correctly noted, it's fully in the mouth. And yes, there is the aftertaste of it, but it's so surprising that it almost makes you think, but not quite, of a mintiness, not of the mint flavor, but of the mintiness feeling when you drink mint tea in the mouth.
Front of mouth, slight dryness, satisfying and juicy swallow, core comfort.
Front of mouth, slight dryness, juicy
Swallow,
swallow,
core comfort.
and a core that is your body core comfort. Great comment, because this is juicy. If I didn't have self-control, oh, wait a minute, I don't have self-control. Well, because I'm talking so much, I'm preventing myself from swallowing down this tea. If I weren't talking to you, this tea would already be gone. Because for me, not only do I detect what you just said, but most especially the juiciness of it makes me want to just keep drinking, swallow after swallow.
The earlier commentator is getting into his reference to pasta water, and wondering if he's perceiving that it might be a floral character shrouded in vegetal.
Oh, that's interesting. So there was a comment about pasta water with further definition of a floral shrouded in vegetal. I'm gonna wait a minute before I make a direct comment because there's actually something else that I detect as well. The floral is just fine. I love that floral. The vegetal is just fine. I think there's one other element, and actually I would accept two other elements in this tea that make it so interesting.
This comment says, not the acidic feel of some green tea, more like a yellow.
Oh, this is really a perceptive comment. Wow. This is a perceptive comment because this grows in the same region as many of our yellows. And therefore, you have detected, hey, the terroir must be somewhat similar. And you are right. It comes from the Hubei Mountains, or close to the Hubei Mountains, where many of the yellows come from. So really a good catch on that.
This commenter says the cooling feel grows as a lingering aftertaste.
The cooling feel grows as a lingering aftertaste. Love this comment because at first, when I first drank this tea this morning, yeah, I detected that cooling definitely as an aftertaste. And then I realized, wait a minute, I'm feeling it more in my mouth than my throat. And so yours is kind of a reflection of that you drink, you keep drinking, and it's like, wow, this is cooling right from the get-go. And it's big in the mouth.
Vegetal nuance lingers on the tongue while cooling liquor issues a sweetness.
Vegetal nuance that lingers on the tongue with a lingering sweetness. Did I get that right?
Cooling liquor
I'm sorry.
issues a sweetness.
Cooling liquor issues a sweetness. I like this comment, and everybody is really getting around certain terms. So we're hearing sweetness over and over again. We're hearing vegetal over and over again. It's cooling over and over again.
Another comment, I am getting a bit of roastiness.
This commentator detects that even though we're getting all these other things, there is some roastiness going on with this as well. Yes, and again, that fry roll fry. And that's why I really emphasize that. That's in there.
How might you designate the difference between the fried flavor and the roasting flavor to be able to determine that? Or is there other ways to discern those?
That's a great question. So the question is, we're using the term fry flavor, roast flavor. For me, this is a complicated question. In green tea, they're one and the same. But as soon as you leave the green tea field, the roastiness almost always implies either a toasty grain type of feel or just toastiness to the leaves, but at a much deeper level. So that's how I would distinguish between the two. So one other flavor that I would posit, in fact, two other flavors that I would posit, but they're very, very subtle. And I'm wondering if any of you might also sense a little bit of this, is I get a slight sense of bamboo and also a slight sense of pininess. So maybe we're all talking about, in terms of the cooling, a little bit of that pininess as a possible flavor. And certainly the Chinese, when they talk about this tea, they talk about just the subtlest hints of pininess.
Which interesting, strangely, this commenter had a moment in which they thought they smelled cinnamon, which is not what they'd expect in a green tea, or maybe I don't know what I'm tasting.
A great comment, and I love the way you put it, because it is, hey, there's something going on with this that goes beyond my ability to put an exact word on it. And the initial attempt is cinnamony. And cinnamony, under certain circumstances, again, has that cooling. And if you substitute piney for cinnamony, I think that may be a closer flavor to what you're actually getting. And we're not talking going out there and eating pine bark or eating, chewing on the needles themselves. We're talking about just a hint of it in this particular tea.
What fuel is used for the fire for the wok frying? What fuel is used? Yeah, what kind of fuel is used for the fire?
So it varies. And in some cases, it's whatever fuel is closest to that farm. So typically, occasionally they'll use pine. More often, because these fields are rotated, they have dried tea bushes. And it's not the bushes themselves, but the trunks that they'll use for that.
The dry leaves reminded me of pine needles after hearing you say pine needles.
Yeah.
In their appearance.
Yeah. The leaves themselves have a little bit of a pine lookingness to them. And again, it's not pine forward. I'm not trying to suggest that. I'm trying to suggest that in the background, among all these other flavors that are playing. So let's back up, because let's go back to the commentator who talked about, not sure what word to use. I'm going to start out with cinnamon. I love this comment, because what this commentator is in effect saying, as well as the commentator who compared it to pasta water, what they are saying is, doggone it. Usually green tea is more direct for me. Usually green tea has more single notes. This has a bunch of notes going on with it. This is why I explain so carefully the process, because all of these things were done to this tea leaf, producing all of these different notes, which you can tell in the end result. And whether we say, oh, to me it's more cinnamony, or no, it's got a little hint of pine, or no, it's more vegetal. All of these comments, and sweetness as well. Wow, when do we get this range of comments about green tea? This is part of what makes this a championship green tea. Also, the Chinese Academy of Sciences has labeled this tea an intangible cultural artifact. And this is the reason why. You produce this very interesting result with this very interesting process.
Clearly, a true tapestry of flavors. As I hold the cup in my hands and inhale, I find more sweetness.
A true tapestry of flavors. As this particular commentator holds the cup, finds even more sweetness. And I will tell you, you guys are getting so good at being in my head, because you've exactly described why we call this tapestry. Because as we were drinking this, it's like, oh my God, it's all these things in here. And they're woven, interwoven in this beautiful way that you rarely get in green tea. When's the last time you had a green tea that was so varied and interesting and all self-contained as one varietal? Alrighty, let's see how I'm doing. Oh, I'm doing okay for a change. If there are no other comments, I want to move forward. Love this tea, and we love the fact that we are able to share this tea with you. This tea, remember I said some teas push the boundaries of a processing methodology. This tea certainly belongs to that because it is so far away from standard in terms of typically how we might think of green teas. And yet it's clearly a green tea. It clearly hasn't left that playing field, but it has clearly pushed the boundaries, just like blindsided pushed the boundaries. So it teaches all of us that these boundaries are not the narrow boundaries that when we grew up, oh, green tea is this. And it's not this, it's this and a lot of other thises. That's actually quite a wide scope. So I really salute all of you this morning for all the commentary. You grokked this tea and you grokked it right away. And I appreciate your commentary and your abilities to put words around the uniqueness of this tea. Next week, we're going to swap it up. We're going to do Golden Arrow next week. So Golden Arrow is a red tea. So we're looking forward to discussing that one with you. Your responsibility this week is to stay healthy. Remember, don't go crazy during this period. We do have music here between 3 to 5 on Sunday. And check your email because we've already sent the email out about this special holiday situation or event. And then we have an event to try and help people work their way through stress of the holiday season, which occurs the following Saturday. So check your emails because all of that information is in there. I really enjoyed being with you today, as I always do. Look forward to seeing you all next week. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.